Welcome back. It's Beantown Fantasy Football. This is Week 7. This is our tight end and team defense edition. With me is BG, Mark Fury, Ace Wonder. The Four Horsemen are back. Let's get started right now. Mark Fury, who are you taking to team defense?
Well, there's one basic strategy coming into this week. What is it, BG?
Bench your Redskins, play your Eagles. Offensively, defensively,
Offense,
special
defense.
teams.
So, start your Philadelphia Eagles defense if you have them. Aside from that just awful display of tackling on Zach Miller's 86-yard touchdown last week, they actually played pretty well.
Which I predicted.
You did. You said that he would actually go for an 86-yard score. It was quite impressive.
That
That might be on the outtake stuff. But anyway, they played pretty well aside from that one play. They gave up a couple of points. They still gave you a good fantasy game. Not anything you would expect out of the Eagles when they play the Raiders, but this week they're playing against the Redskins, who are in offensive shambles. They got a new guy calling the plays. They got a quarterback who can't play at all. Basically the same stuff you've been hearing if you've been listening to us this week. There's no reason to not think that the Eagles won't be the top fantasy defense this week.
So
I don't care who you have. I don't care who your other defenses are. Play the Eagles. They're the #1 defense this week.
That's right. So basically, the Redskins are going to get jacked up.
Jacked up!
All right.
Woo!
I can dig that. All right, that's who you're starting, but the defense rests this week. And Mark Fury, tell us who it is.
I'm resting the Arizona Cardinals against the New York Giants. The Giants just got embarrassed in New Orleans last week, and this team, they're a championship caliber team. They're not going to take too lightly to that. They're going to come out on fire, and they're going to be throwing the ball all over this team. Arizona doesn't have a very good secondary. They can stop the run, but Eli Manning's playing the best football of his career. We already said we expect Eli to have a huge game. Arizona is going to give you numbers similar to what the Giants defense gave you last week. They could be in negative points this week. Also, they're coming to the East Coast, and Arizona never plays well when they come to this time zone. Look at what they did when they came to New England last year, when they were Super Bowl contenders. It was just a joke, and there's a pretty good chance this team won't show up at all this week. So don't make the mistake of putting in a team that has some decent fantasy numbers. Just stay away from them this week. Go back to them when they go back home and have a more favorable matchup.
All right, Ace Wonder, your starting defense going into Week 7.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been riding them all year. They got Polamalu back, Harrison. Brett Favre's going to make some mistakes. You know he is. You know he's going to try to force throws with double teams, and Pittsburgh's going to be there waiting.
I agree. I think that's going to be a good game for Pittsburgh's defense. Should be some big points, interceptions, sacks. Polamalu back. Absolutely.
Gotta love it.
All right, I totally agree with you on that Pittsburgh pick. With Polamalu back, interceptions, sacks is always something you can count on with Pittsburgh. But the defense rests. It's going to rest with you. Who is not going to be your team defense going into Week 7?
Well, ever since Antoine Odom tore that Achilles tendon, I'm hating on the Bengals. I mean, Chicago's going to put up some points this week. I mean, fellas, these are the Bengals. They've been playing superhuman the first couple weeks, and Odom's been carrying them on his back. Now that he's gone, I think those corners are going to get exposed, especially when they're left on the island in the Marvin Lewis style of defense. I mean, Cutler's going to throw them speedy targets, and Cincinnati's not going to have a chance.
I'm with you on that one. I don't like Cincinnati at all either. I mean, the two guys who stuck out when they were playing well were Antoine Odom and Leon Hall.
Yeah.
Odom's gone. Hall's he's still a good player. I think he can probably get a pick because Cutler, he's going to throw a couple interceptions, but he's going to put up a lot of points too.
Yeah.
And Hall's going to probably end up getting beat because he's not going to be able to cover these receivers, especially someone like Johnny Knox, for as long as he will have to with Antoine Odom not there getting Nick Cutler's face.
Cutler's going to have all day.
Oh, yeah. I agree with both of you guys. I mean, even if Odom was healthy, I wouldn't even play the Bengals defense anyway. Now that Odom's hurt, I'd definitely cut the Bengals defense right now, even if it was for Keka.
Well, I guess I'm going to need another week to be convinced of that, but
you'll see the beatdown this week.
The thing about the Bengals is they still have some pretty good fantasy numbers, so you might be able to take them and trade them for someone.
Yeah.
For maybe a backup receiver or something if someone's struggling on defense, or maybe even pick up just another defense. Package them, get rid of them. Yeah. You can definitely do better.
Oh, yeah. I think with all the lopsided matchups this week for team defenses, I think Cincy could actually be a pretty relatively safe pick if you need bye-week help. But
in a big league where you start two defenses, maybe. Yeah, I have seen those before. Those are tough ones to call. So you always get a bad one in there, but Aside from having to start 2 defenses, I wouldn't go near Cincinnati.
All right.
Why not?
Well, we will come back to this next week. You can bet on that. Let's move on to tight end, and we're going to start with BG. Who's going to be the TE for BG in Week 7?
TE's gonna be Mr. Shockey MIA. I mean, we already know what Drew Brees can do. We've seen all his receivers. They even got running backs. And Shockey, you know what? Like, he had some confidence last week playing against his old mates, and I look for him to carry it over into this week against Miami.
And I love that pick. Shockey's back in Miami where he went to college.
That's
I think
right.
he's gonna step up.
Probably meet up with Vita Guerra real quick, so you know he's gonna have a good day.
That's a great pick. Who is not going to be in your starting lineup, though?
You gotta sit Shanko at Pittsburgh, man. Like, I mean, I know that's Favre's boy and all, but I mean, Pittsburgh's always got stacked linebackers. Polamalu can cover too at safety. We already talked about how Minnesota is probably not gonna put up too many points against the Steelers defense. Therefore, I look for Shanko to have a rough game this week. So for all y'all jumping on the Shanko bandwagon, don't play him against the Steelers this week.
I agree. Not a good pick against the Steelers, especially with Polamalu back in action.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Shanko's not an elite tight end, I don't think.
Certainly not against Pittsburgh. He won't make any
He's
ground.
he's in that second tier. He's very good, but he's not quite elite.
Not enough to get over the hump.
He's a guy who you can definitely bench without any problem if you really need to.
Yeah.
All right, I think we see eye to eye on that sit. Let's start now with my picks going into Week 7. I like Kellen Winslow going against the New England Patriots simply because there isn't anybody else in Tampa Bay with hands that can catch. Winslow actually has been a consistent target. He gets the looks. He could be good for a score, maybe not big yardage, but if you need a flex play or, you know, a tight end going into this week, somebody you have on a bye week, you could do a lot worse than him. But somebody who's not going to be in my starting lineup is going to be the Oakland Raiders' Zach Miller, who I said last week would have a score, some decent yardage. It pains me to do this because I generally think that there could be something clicking. But going against the defense that he's going against this week, I don't think he's a good option at all. Go ahead and stick Zach Miller.
I'm with you on that. I still don't trust Jamarcus Russell to get the ball to anybody, even if it is a tight end. He's probably going to get more looks than those receivers just because he hasn't got on the same page as any of them. But the bottom line is Zach Miller scored his first touchdown last week. He was averaging just over 40 yards a game. If you're getting 2 points from your tight end or 2 to 4 points from your tight end, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, that touchdown against the Eagles will be like a 10-yard completion against the Jets. So. Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's Team Defense and Tight End edition. For Mark Fury, Ace Wonder, BG, I'm the Jaker. Stay tuned, it only gets better.